I have no earthly idea if this is going to work, by the way. But I guess we're going to find out. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for stopping in for a little bit. I appreciate it. Just looking through the messages and everything right now. I actually have a Twitch channel. I set it up today, as a matter of fact. By the way, I haven't had an opportunity to calibrate my microphone or anything for this, and so it might be a little hot. So if someone can give me some feedback and just let me know if it sounds crazy, I'd appreciate it. Because the last thing I want is for people to get on this for the first time and hear me kind of shrieking at them. So yeah. Lovely Nana, heyo, love your FFT stuff, by the way. Been seeing your videos, and I'm a big fan of the game. Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate it. I also hope to do more, honestly. It's been kind of a crazy ride since I think my first video was in October. And I've been planning for, 3 or 4, much longer than that. I mean, I've really been doing the scripting and everything since December of 2024, and just starting to do my research and everything. So yeah, I mean, when the computer stuff went crazy, it was kind of an awkward time for me, but hey, I'm we came out the other side, so that's the important thing, and hopefully we'll be able to get everything kind of situated on that end. Slight echo, little hot. All right, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Let's see if we can maybe turn it down a little bit. See if that helps. I'm also wondering if there's a second microphone that's being picked up right now. So I do technically have a webcam microphone that I use for work, so hopefully both aren't working at the same time. That would be something else. Yeah, so I'll just keep playing with this stuff for now, and I don't know if I have to pull it up on my on my phone and just see if I can hear what's weird or not. But yeah, hopefully that was better. I turned it down a little bit. The slight echo is weird, though. Yeah, that's something we'll definitely want to get fixed here. How you talk about tactics is just so cool, almost like a D&D sort of thing, and it's cool, or role-playing sort of thing. Yeah, that's I appreciate you saying that, lovely Nana. That was always kind of my intent. When I first started to put the plan in place to really understand why would I want to make the channel, and why would I want to do what I've been doing? I started by looking at what was the sort of videos that I liked watching. What is the sort of things that I would, if I couldn't sleep, if I would turn it on. And, when I say that I stand on the shoulders of giants, it's 100% the truth. I'm really inspired by a lot of the Warhammer 40K community. I think I've actually talked about Sandman of Terra before. He's phenomenal. If you're into 40K and you haven't seen him, check him out, truly. But also Luton 09, these sort of guys. And it was always long form deep dives into really granular and specific topics. And I've always been fascinated by, Final Fantasy Tactics and Ivalice itself. And really, as I started to really think about it, I was going to make this channel regardless of Ivalice Chronicles coming out. But once Ivalice Chronicles did, come out, it just seemed like a great, it seemed like a great opportunity to really get into it, Mr. Variant, I think the Ivalice Chronicles added a ton of stuff while condensing the game to not replay dozens of times to find the obscure info. Yeah, I've heard mixed things about the Ivalice Chronicles. I've watched enough people play through it to know the gameplay has always been terrific, truly terrific. And like from a turn-based standpoint, actually, if you get the opportunity to look at or check out the War of the Lions remaster that they did on iPad or iOS rather, there are some things that they did to like streamline the gameplay that like quickened, it made battles faster. It made, just things like that, and it really did help. And I'm not certain if Evil East Chronicles did, any of that yet. But I'm hoping at some point, if I ever get time, not like this kind of time, but time, to actually sit down and play through the Evil East Chronicles. And, I just, the thing that I've always been fascinated by from Final Fantasy Tactics is like truly it's the story and the lore. I am somebody who is really like into, I studied history in college, and I really fascinated by Western European history, and especially like French Revolution, things like that. That's actually what I got my master's in. And when I started playing, Final Fantasy Tactics, like the first time around, I mean, I think I was like 11 or 12 years old. So many of the topics went over my head. Like, it's just so many of the themes and everything. But it's amazing. I think I said this in the comments section of one of my early videos. I was talking back and forth with somebody, and they said that, basically what I've thought about this whole time, is you need to play Final Fantasy Tactics at different seasons of your life. And like as an example, if you play it when you're a teenager, or if you play it when you're 11 or 12 years old, like I was, then you're going to experience the game differently. Like, everybody hates Algus, everybody hates Argith. That is a universal experience. But you also, like, when you're a child, like when you're a preteen, when you're 11 years old, you really don't understand Maluda. You really don't understand Weegraph. You don't understand some of like the deeper themes and things that Delita is talking about. And like, it's only when you play it later and you have a little bit more expertise, like you start to empathize more with Maluda, and you start to empathize more with, Weegraph. And it's what, like, I love Chapter 3, and in the video that I just, put out a couple weeks ago, Chapter 3 is amazing because it is a true fall from grace. Like, you get to watch somebody, you really get to watch somebody, like, just collapse. You get to watch Weegraph, like, in real time. He's bloodied and defeated and broken, and just how he surrenders himself. Just forfeits his soul and everything. And when you're a kid, you don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense. But, like, once you're older, then it means one thing. And now what I have found, and this is just a beautiful blessing in my life, the game means something different to me now that, like, I'm a dad. And I've got a young family. And so, like, that also has a huge impact on the story and the narrative. And as I was going back and I was, reading through the scripts, that I could find, and reading through, the actual pieces of the lore and things, it just means it means something different to you, like, truly. To be honest, but I'm also fascinated with Argith's character, like a noble that is also, 100%. I think that Argith, if you look at Final Fantasy Tactics from the standpoint of Ramza is the focal point from which all stories are told. He is the vector from which all stories are told. But every character that is named or is important or everything like that serves as a direct mirror to Ramza. And if you look at, like, starting in Chapter 1, Delita and Argith and even Weegraph to a certain extent they're total mirrors. And they're important because if you don't have those reference points to Ramza, you do not understand where Ramza ends up at the end of Chapter 1 and where he starts in Chapter 2. And the same thing with Chapter 2 exists because you start to, you first meet Fulmarv, you meet, Gafgarian really comes into his own. You go through the whole thing with Agrius, and all these things happen, and suddenly you're seeing the mercenary of Ramza different, because he's a mercenary who goes right into the lion's den and confronts demonic evil. Whether he knew he was going to or not, he does it. And so the story morphs and changes there. And then it changes again in chapter 3, where now the aristocracy and the nobility have turned on him. And the other side of that is now the church has branded him a heretic. And I realized as I was, writing my script for chapter 3 of Ramza, I called him a heretic too soon in chapter 2, and I actually burned through a lot of the capital, the creative capital on that by branding him a heretic in chapter 2, and kind of had to pay my penance a little bit. The video's kind of underperforming. And I don't really care about that, from a analytics standpoint. That's never been something that's important to me. But I'm truly making it for the love of the game. But it does give you a good sense for what people are feeling, and it just didn't really make sense. So hopefully we can course correct. And honestly, I think when you've had a long layoff after a long period of time, and the other one with my family and everything like that, it's just you're just kind of trying to get through it. That's just how it works. Evil East Chronicles made Gafgarian more than Bye Felicia. War of the Lions was so goofy. I've also read that the ending of Ramza and Gafgarian is a little bit more heartfelt. It's a little bit more important. So that's a I do look forward to that. But also I really do like I am partial to the Bye Gafgarian line, or Goodbye Gafgarian, if I remember correctly what it is. That's just a perfect thing, because at that point, Gafgarian has been harrying you for what, 3-4 battles, and just when you think you're gonna get him, he poofs away. And so to win that duel against him, while you're behind the other side of the portcullis, it does really help. And I think it is really important. But also, if you can build upon that, it's definitely something that, could be built upon. Isilud from chapter 3 is the best mirror of chapter 1 Ramza. No idea how Marak captured him. I really like Isilud as a character, and the interesting thing about Isilud is I remembered him obviously from when I was a kid, and I played it again, in 2013, 2014 when I was traveling for work. I used to fly a lot, so I used to play Final Fantasy Tactics on iOS on the plane. But I did not remember Isilud being as important of a character as he ended up being. If that makes any sense. And so definitely revisiting this time around and seeing everything with Isilud, is really great. And he's not as much of a throwaway. The other thing about Isilud too is if you're looking for a 1-to-1 comparison, you have to compare Fulmarv to Balbinus, because Balbinus, in his death. In chapter 1, I think I talk about this. If I remember one of my scripts right, I don't know. I've written so much about this game now. I'll just check. But every character who's in Balbinus's chambers, when he's dying, takes a different lesson from Balbinus. Dystarg takes a different one from Zalbag, takes a different one from Alma, takes a different one from Ramza. And so when you look at it that way, they all took a piece of Balbinus's, life, but Ramza, I think, took Balbinus's, took the literal soul of Balbinus. At the end of the day, we haven't got, I don't want to spoil chapter 4. I think most of us here have watched most of, or have at least played the game or are familiar with what happens. But, the fall of House Beowulf is is crazy, and it's dark and it's depressing and it's tragic and it happens so fast. And so like when you're left at the end of the battle in Milan, we don't know how everything is going. Like we don't know what happens with Ramsey at the end of the game, but like you're literally, that's why I've always liked playing with Orlando, because like Orlando is an amazing character because he knew Balbinus. They were two of the strongest military minds and generals in Evil East during the 50 Years' War, and they garnered a lot of respect and decency from a kinfolk that quite frankly they revolt and they form the Corpse Brigade and everything like that. So it's I do really like how when you compare and contrast Balbinus to Ramsay, you could literally see a teenage 20-year-old 21-year-old Balbinus Beowulf doing what Ramsay does, and you wouldn't think twice about it. More coffee. Yes, your breakdowns of Wheatgraph and Maluda were great, and the dichotomy with Ramsay. Yeah, I thank you. That's very kind and generous of you to say. I think that from like Maluda, there's something that I actually do not like about this game, and it's something that this might be controversial, but it's something that I've realized as I've been writing scripts, and it's how women are treated in this game, and it's how it's like the I guess it's the themes that the women represent in this game, like Tetra, Alma, Ovelia, Agrius, Maluda, and soon we're gonna get Meliadul, and if you go through like Reese and things like that through the extra stuff. I one hope that I have in playing through the Evil East Chronicles is I do hope they give the women more agency. And so like Maluda, there's some creative license that's taken with some of the script writing that I did for Maluda, because I honestly think that Maluda is one of the most tragic characters in chapter 1, and it's really a shame that like Maluda doesn't. I think that like at the end of the Wheatgraph fight, Wheatgraph actually says, "Maluda, forgive me," or "Maluda, I'm sorry." It's just there's a lot more there. There could have been a lot more there, in my opinion. I also don't like as so. Maybe not. This isn't unique to just the female characters, but it's unique to anybody who joins your party. Like Rafa and Marak and Mustadio and Agrius, and we're gonna get Orlando soon, and Meliadul, and it's like their stories stop when they join the party. And I do think that there's been some dialogue that's been added that kind of expounds on a lot of their stuff. I know that like Fulmarv apparently has very compelling voice lines that are for each individual person. So hopefully, like if I do get a chance to play through the game, we can kind of expand and on that. The thing about the Evil East Chronicles is if I am able to ever finish Final Fantasy Tactics like the way that it is right now, I do want to do a comparative analysis of the scripting of Final Fantasy Tactics, the War of the Lions edition, and then the Evil East Chronicles, because I think that it's kind of like if you read the Bible in Greek and then you read the Bible in the Latin as the way it was back in the Middle Ages and things, and then you read like the King James edition Bible right now. uh, words mean different things. Words mean different, the conversations are different because you don't have the context of what was actually happening in the moment from the actual, text. Uh, by the way, I am reading through all of your guys' messages, by the way. I'm actually moving up. Um, so I want to make sure I don't miss anything, and then I'll head to the bottom. Um, Final Fantasy Tactics has always been one of, if not my favorite, games of all time. This is more coffee. Many games claim to be like, or Final Fantasy Tactics like, but aren't. Have you found any games you enjoy in the same genre? Wow. Yeah, so tactical RPG style is not quite my favorite style of gameplay. Um, so I mean, I love it in so much as like you play something when you're like 10, 11 years old and it's the greatest thing of all time. And then you kind of go back and visit it and you're like, oh, this is kind of a slog. I do think that Final Fantasy Tactics, at least like when I was replaying the PlayStation version to capture all of my footage, that's now gone. Um, uh, when I was playing through it, I'm like, oh man, this is kind of a slog. This is kind of slow. And that's one of the reasons why I really like War of the Lions on iOS, because it does add things that kind of speed things up. The AI is a little bit better, so it helps to, you don't have you can pre-program like your objective and just kind of let everybody go, which is great. But have you found any games you enjoy in the same genre? If you would allow me to expand, I guess, out from traditional, like the Tactics Ogre or Final Fantasy Tactics Advance or anything like that. Final Fantasy VI. I think the story of Final Fantasy VI is incredible. Kefka is one of the greatest villains of all time. And I just really love, even though the story is so like so many main characters and things like that, like everybody has agency, everybody has a good beat, everybody has a payoff, which is great. Um, Originally, like when I was, looking at things that I could potentially do, um, I was initially thinking that I was going to do it about Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is actually my first love, and I actually spent more time than I care to admit as a teenager over summer reading through a website that was like a fan made website called the Chrono Compendium, and the Chrono Compendium was like it was this entanglement of uh, the original Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, the game that exists between it, which is a text-based RPG called Radical Dreamers. And then there was also a re-release, I believe, on the uh, one of the handheld Nintendo ports, or maybe it was a PSP or something, where they added some like Akira Toriyama like full cutscenes, which are pretty amazing. Um, but yeah, the story of Chrono Trigger is maybe my favorite video game story of all time. If you haven't played Chrono Trigger, everybody should play it once. I try to play it every year around Easter. Although, I have a 4-year-old, so maybe not so much. But when you have a 4-year-old and it's Easter time, you don't have a lot of free time to do anything. I just kind of happen to luck into that. Let's see if we moved anything else. Mr. Variant, I really do appreciate all your messages, by the way. Thank you for sending all those. Wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything of import. Um, yeah, so let's just head back to the bottom. We can scroll up. Yeah. Easter Resurrection of Chrono. That's true. I can remember like that's one of the formative moments in gaming for me, and it is just in traditional storytelling. Just the idea that you can lose, um, like I the first time that happens, like you're a main character the whole time. You were a silent protagonist, and then you are wiped out by the main villain, and you start playing as another character, and it's so like mean, it is brutal. It is stark. You don't know. You don't have any idea what's happening. So yeah, Chrono Trigger is definitely my one of my first loves. If you haven't played it, everybody should play it at least once. I don't have any tattoos, but I always said if I did, I would have the clock from Chrono Trigger somewhere on my person. Have I heard the rumors that they may remake Chrono Trigger? Yes, I have heard that rumor for the past 15 years. I won't let myself get excited. There's. I can remember when Chrono Resurrected was like this fan-made project that got shut down, over IP and things, but it was like a 2.5D remake that just looked amazing. I can remember like watching the videos on YouTube and thinking like, oh my god, this is actually going to happen. But yeah, I mean, hey, I would always be down, like, considering the amount of care that Square Enix put into Ivalice Chronicles. I think I do trust them a little bit more now to give Chrono Trigger the respect it deserves. I do think, however, like, the one caveat to that is they needed to do it. They should have done it before Toriyama had passed away. Toriyama was like, so from the art style to the storytelling, I mean, it is told like a shonen, anime, and it's just, I think that Toriyama could have done some really amazing things if he was still around, and it's just a shame, Are you checking sound levels on that note? Are checking sound levels on my end, Mr. Variant? Is it still kind of gnarly, or how are we sounding right now? No, to answer your question. Okay, yeah, Rafa Marak, hardly speak outside plot. Yeah, everyone talks to full mark. Okay, that's great. Yeah, I honestly, like when I was writing the stuff about Rafa, I thought that I just remembered like how much she drove me nuts because her spells would always miss. So there's some things that I had to, I do take some creative liberties with how in the script how we talk about Rafa and how she always misses when she is not supposed to. Yeah, I think that so. Just going back to your message about Alma versus Ultima, Mr. Variant, and we'll obviously cover this more in Chapter 4. But my main point about the way that the way that women in particular are written in the story, it's in service of advancing the stories of the men, and that's not necessarily like truly, if you study Western European history and you study Middle Age history and things like that, that is also true. Like a lot of the most important women in European history their stories are told in service of something larger that's happening with the men that are in the story. I just like when I was, because I've been struggling mightily. I'll be real with you guys, give you a peek behind the curtain. I have been struggling mightily with finishing my Agrius script, because I think Agrius is one of the most important characters in all of Final Fantasy Tactics. I think she's truly amazing. But her story abruptly, at least from what I've played, because I have not played Ivalice Chronicles, but her story ends abruptly before the end of Chapter 2, because she's one of these characters who she joins the team and then basically her story stops. I would... If they ever do DLC or something like that, I would love to see DLC around, what became of well, I guess we never know, because it's left ambiguous at the end of the game. We know that Ramza and Alma are saved at the end of chapter 4, but we don't know what happens to everybody else. They kind of disappeared from the record. So that's definitely something. Agrius' underrated evasion, like Black Chocobo. Evilise gives a little more dialogue with Zalmor. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that, because I think that Inquisitor Zalmor is a great character. He's such a turd. He's this the way that I've always imagined him, like in my headcanon, when I'm reading his voice out loud, when I was playing through the game, he has like this reedy, high fluting voice that would have just, that's always how I pictured it. So I kind of hope, from the Evilise Chronicle standpoint, that's how it sounds. Because if he has like this really grandiose bravado and everything like that, I think it would kind of, break my agency a little bit. Helen of Troy lost tons of ships. Women are the greatest tester. Challenge to a man. Yeah, exactly. Delilah and Samson. If you want to talk about that. I actually joked with my little girl. She's in preschool, and she is learning right now about, or I guess a couple months ago, about Saint Joan of Arc. And Saint Joan of Arc is one of my favorite people from history, just like historic figures. And when you take French history and Franco history and things like that, Joan of Arc is taught in a specific way, especially like at the collegiate level, university level, and you really do start to read like contemporaneous reports and things like that of what was happening, with Joan. So I went DLC with some characters, to be honest, even the side characters as well. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people have not been very happy about leaving out Luso and Balthier. Are those the? I might be misremembering the two folks from War of the Lions. Mostly because Balthier especially is like so freaking overpowered. But yeah, I think that it would be really, really interesting if you would expand on, like Worker 8 and Cloud, and it could, anything you would have to do would have to be like at the end of the narrative, like at the end of the game. But like, this would actually be cool if you had like this side quest mission where it was Agrius and Alicia and Lavian, and it's like a scenario, and they have to fight through, something on the path to Milan, and by doing that, Agrius actually unlocks a job class, like she becomes, the Lion Knight or something, like just something like that. That would, you gate progression behind. You gate the progression behind like these earned things. And I think that would be really fascinating, personally. I think that would definitely expand on her character. What would you say your favorite characters in Final Fantasy Tactics are, in your opinion? It's a great question, lovely Nana. Wheatgraph. Yeah, I would say probably Wheatgraph is my favorite. I think that Wheatgraph is the embodiment of just despair. And I think, like, as I was writing the script for, Ramza Chapter 3, and I'm working on Wheatgraph's own chapter for Chapter 3 also. That might be one of the next couple videos that I make. We're going to live in Chapter 3 for a little bit, by the way, guys, before we get to Chapter 4, because Chapter 4 gets it gets crazy, and I also don't have my my footage anymore. That was one of the things that got lost, so We can do a lot of good with still images and things like that, and credited videos from for Chapter 3 topics. I really, I mean, this might be silly, like, or kind of obvious. I really like Ramza. I think Ramza is just one of the best written protagonists in RPG history. Truly. He's an amazing, his growth throughout the entirety of the narrative is just truly amazing. And I just would hope that oh, hey, my first super chat. Thank you, More Coffee. I appreciate it. Just to celebrate the first live. Yeah, we'll if folks like this, we can maybe do more of them. But yeah, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Always have appreciated your support through all this. It truly means a lot. So Wheatgraph is definitely one of my favorite characters. I love Ramza's character. I like Delita because he's such a snake. He's a truly he's such a well built and well told character. And like what he does to end up on the throne and then how his life ends up, it is the embodiment of just desserts. He truly does get his. And that's one of my favorite things about chapter 4 too. But yeah, it's definitely like Ramza, Delita, Wheatgraph, I think are probably my favorite characters. Although there's a lot of them. There's really I have an appreciation for Rafa and Marak that I didn't have before I started this series. Their story is super tragic. They're as children, their town is destroyed, and they have to band together because they have these supernatural powers that no one else in Ivalice has, and they don't know how to control it, and then they are taken in and manipulated and brainwashed into serving serving an aristocracy that would just use them to exact that same sort of evil onto other villages. And that's that is a truly great story that is so rich with subtext, and the ending. Yeah, Barrington on the roof, exactly. That is such a great ending to their story, even if it's because of weird zombie vampires. So I would say those are my favorite characters, but there's a lot. Delita becomes the way he becomes because of the story, and in a way becomes another Argith. Slightly, I want to say, but at least his crash out was for a reason. Sure, yeah, I think everything in Delita's story feels earned. His success, his failures, and his tragic fall. None of that feels ham-fisted. What happens at Fort Zeekden is truly tragic, and it is it is shocking when it happens the first time, and everything is Delita. Like everything about Delita is earned. So yeah. Riz, my favorite is Delita. To fight fire with fire, coming from rags to riches is so good. Yeah, 100%. It's earned. He did it. And he starts doing it in chapter 2. This is one of my favorite things, actually. We'll go back to chapter 2 for a second, because I think that this is worth touching on. There is a moment that happens at the end of chapter 2. It is in the denouement, before they move into chapter 3, where Delita is in the throne room of Goltana, and it's when he starts his grand coup. And there is a moment that happens in there where Orlandu and Orin are standing in the in the chamber with Delita while this is happening. And when Delita unsheaths his sword to kill the he's some elected official, he's a chancellor or something like that. You see Orlando reach for his sword. He just reaches for his hilt. And before you've played through the game, the first time you see that, you think, "Oh, this is just a guy with a cloak who is going to, try and stop this." When you've played through the game 2 or 3 times and you understand just how powerful Orlando was, like, imagine what would have happened in that moment had Orlando said, "Not today," and used one of his holy sword arts on Delita in that moment. Just if he decided to just 86 Delita then. How different everything would have been. And so it becomes, again, another part of the story, but another part of the tragedy is there are so many moments where folks could have stopped what happens. And they just don't. They don't because there's, the inaction that happens, in the moment is what leads to, it's what leads to the story. It's not even so much action. Delita is a man of action, but he is surrounded by inaction. And that's a I think that's a great way to tell his story, truly. Holy explosion, exactly. Just imagine, yeah, he'd be in cinders at the end of it. Yeah, I remember that part. It's so good. He does not waver. I just love Delita. He will do what Ramza cannot or chooses not to, which is why, in a way, Delita would be Ramza's shadow. Yeah, 100%. That's why Delita is stabbed in the gut, and he doesn't think about Tetra. He doesn't think about Ovelia, who he's just tried to murder. He talk about Ramza. It's because he gets everything he wants, but in doing so he loses his soul. And like there's Ramza was the soul. And that's what's really fascinating. Like, I'm just now realizing this, talking this out. Like, Ramza in chapter 1 is an idealistic, naive noble who is, he's trying to move up in the world. He's a squire. He's not a knight. He's not anything like that. And Delita is the soul of chapter 1. Because, Delita has to tell him, hey, we don't beat up, prisoners, and we don't do these sort of things. And that flips. That literally flips throughout the story to where by the end of it, Ramza is the soul of the story because he has given up everything that was soulless about him. The blind idealism towards the nobility, the salute and following orders, when, it's politically expedient and things like that. I punch out demons. He stabs fat guys. Spoilers. Yeah, the Chancellor's. Yeah. That's a lot of what he does. And I saw somebody mention this earlier up in the chat. I'll have to see if I can find it. But Delita, is given extra battles in War of the Lions. And while the battles are kind of silly, they do expand the story between Delita and Ovelia to the point where I don't know that it's too much to say that to read what Delita does to Ovelia as gaslighting is not doing it justice, because I do think that there's actually one of these things where they form an appreciation and a true love for one another. Now, it's a love that's born of political intrigue and, just the need to be protected and safe. But also, they both become king and queen together. And when you become king and queen together, it's very much, it's The Godfather. It's Michael and his wife. Like they become the Godfather together. That's part of it. I wanted more cutscenes with Delita or Ovelia or both. IDK. We didn't get as much as you'd think. I mean, I can understand where you're coming from, but you literally get nothing in the original PlayStation version. Like you do not get the you don't get the exposition. There's a lot of exposition that's actually added in the War of the Lions version, through like the full motion video and things like that. So it does feel a little more earned. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I personally think that's the case. I think it's a quote: "If you don't move, the world will move you, whether you like it or not." 100%. I think we're all feeling that right now in a lot of ways. I remember that part. It's so good. He does not waver. I just love Delita. I think I already read that. I'm sorry for repeating myself. Chapter 2's best moment is Draclow. Delacroix. Calls Rams a bastard. Then it changes to I agree. The whole Delacroix thing is definitely it's very well written. It's very well done. Especially when you get the Baird Trading Company stuff and you get the Gefgarian stuff and you realize that there is a side plot that's happening with Dice Dart at the same time, and you're like, oh, okay. Like there is something happening here. Argith just rants against poor people like Cartman hating Kenny in South Park. So Argith, we kind of talk about this a little bit in his video. But like Argith comes from a family who has been beaten down. And Argith comes from a political, his place in the aristocracy, his place in the family's aristocracy is, it's tarnished. It's no longer, he has to remake his house. He has to remake his name. Now, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. I think Argith shows the entire time that he chooses the wrong way to do things. But you can understand, where that's coming from. Torp here, thank you for the follow on Twitch. That is my first follower on Twitch. By the way, I am live streaming this on Twitch. So this is kind of a new thing for me. The reason why I set up a Twitch channel, by the way, is, and we'll kind of get into this here in a second, but I talked about this in one of the posts, and I think actually More Coffee was the one who I was talking about this with. I think that, we can talk about it now. I don't see why not. By the way, thank you to everybody who has signed up, who has checked in and, joined in on the chat. I really do appreciate all the messages and, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. I was supposed to be, so I actually worked today, and I was supposed to be traveling, and my afternoon actually ended up getting cleared up. But I was already about 2 hours away, and by the time I got home, my wife and my little girl decided to go to my in-laws' lake house for the weekend. So I'm kind of home alone tonight, which I don't think I've been home alone since, probably before she was born. So just something else. Lovely Nana, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Tuba 9001, thank you for the follow on Twitch. Yeah, I appreciate it. Twitch, twitch.tv/EvilEastInsider. It's the same name. So yeah, why did I create a Twitch channel? It's a good question. So I want to be careful with the way that I talk about this. So the reason why I've got this little chronicler, by the way, which I don't know if the little PNG guy is like kind of distracting. I keep seeing him like, jerk around and things. I definitely need to work on that. Maybe I could find somebody who's better at it before this. But yeah. So back in December of last year. Sorry to bring the mood down a little bit, but back in December of last year, my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 glioblastoma, and glioblastoma, if you're not aware, is a death sentence. It's a uncurable form of brain cancer, and they're doing some meaningful research and things, but not to the point yet. So he's taking part in a couple of trials right now where hopefully like he gets some good information, but that they can take back and work on maybe finding a cure in the next 10, 15 years or so. And he's at one of the best cancer hospitals in the world. In where we live. We just happen to have one of the best, which is truly fortunate. But this is, we were told that we were going to get 15 to 18 months with him in December, and when you look at it, like now we're at 12 months to 15 months, so and everything like that. So when I was at the hospital with all, where I took about 2 weeks off, and my work was very gracious and gave me as much time as I needed to be with my family at the time, and I started to think about ways that I could raise money for glioblastoma research, and one of the things that I came up with was doing a charity stream of me playing through Evilise Chronicles. And while YouTube gaming is a very fine, it's a very good, it's a very fine streaming platform. My presence on YouTube isn't really to isn't as a live stream gamer. My presence on YouTube, at least to now, is as a lore channel. So if you want to play games, if you want to raise awareness and things like that, you do it on Twitch. So I created the Twitch channel in hopes that when it comes time to play through Evilise Chronicles, we'll all do it together. And I will probably do it with no graphics or anything on, because part of it is probably going to be me also capturing the video, so I can use it in future videos selfishly. But yeah, so the way that I've been thinking about it, because I don't have a very big presence. I don't have a very big channel, although every time I get a subscription or every time I get a follower or anything like that, it does truly mean the world to me. So, I really do value and appreciate everybody who leaves a comment and shares the videos that I make and things. It does truly mean a lot to me. But I want to do everything that I can to, be a force for good and, see if we can, raise some money or raise some awareness and things for glioblastoma research. And I have these like visions in my head of like, while we're doing the playthrough, having like a glioblastoma researcher or a brain cancer expert, or just coming onto the stream, and maybe we can jump in a Discord call and talk about what it is, what we're doing on that on the research side, and everything like that. So I've got big dreams for the channel. I've got big dreams for what we could potentially do, and like I said, I want to be a force for good. And I'm a Boy Scout. I believe in leaving the world better than you found it, and that's important to me anyways. So yeah, that's why I created a Twitch, twitch.tv/Evilise Insider. Here, I'll actually put it in the chat. Hold please. There you go. Yeah. You can copy and paste that and go follow if you got a Twitch channel. I'd appreciate it. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens. It's more difficult to do a live stream when I'm a full-time dad and a full-time I have a full-time job as well that keeps me very busy. So a lot of my research and things that I do is actually on voice memos. And script writing is done in voice memos as I'm driving around. So that's the hard part. But I think there's never an easy time to do anything, right? So you might as well just do it. I would totally watch you play Tactics. So yes. Also, would you play a modded Tactics game on Steam? Curious what you think on mods. I super pro mod. Yeah, I think that so long as it's not like disrespectful, or like I think I modded Skyrim so much in 2011. Is that when 2011 when it came out that like my computer crashed and I had to like reinstall Steam and like everything like that because I literally couldn't load Skyrim anymore because I had so many mods on it. I think it's gotten better since then, and I've also built a better machine since then. So yeah, I'm totally pro mods. What this always comes down to is time. I have not had time in my life to play Evil East Chronicles yet. Obviously that's something I want to play. I have not had a chance to play the Elden Ring DLC yet, either Night Rain or Shadow of the Erdtree. So I'd really like to do that at some point. I love Factorio. I would love to be able to play Factorio again, but I modded the hell out of Factorio too, so like that's just the thing. Yeah, thankful for the guy who cured sickle cell anemia or had the soap for removing skin cancer. And it's not all big pharma managing side effects. Yeah, I mean that's true. I think that cancer research is one of those things where it's not we're learning more every day, and while I think AI is not the best thing in the world, in a lot of ways, although I use it for some workflows and things, and try not to, especially for work. One way that AI is doing a lot of good right now is in research and medical research and things. And I do think that we're going to see, especially as processing power gets better and things like that, like we're going to see some major advancements. Like the protein folding and things that has happened is amazing. It's miraculous. If you wanted DLC on Tactics, what would you want them to add and why? I'm curious. So I think that there's an obvious answer. They removed stuff from War of the Lions to make Evil East Chronicles. Just add that stuff back. That's great DLC. I mean, maybe make it free DLC, but like, why is Luso not in it? Why is Balthier not in it? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And they can bring that stuff back. You can bring the classes back. You can do Onion Knight. You can do Dark Knight. You can do those. I also think there's potential, like from a DLC standpoint of making the game harder. I don't know, like if maybe Evil East Chronicles is much more difficult. I know Tactician mode people said is difficult, but like I've also seen that Tactician mode is basically like just it's the same difficulty as original FFT, and if I can beat it when I'm 11, like I can probably beat it when I'm not 11. So I would like to see maybe like while there is permadeath in Final Fantasy Tactics, like if you let guys, the timers count down to 0 and things, like maybe you could make a hardcore version that, once you're dead, you're dead. I think that would be an interesting thing. Yeah, clear data for Onion and Dark Knight would have been nice, as well as keep Ragnarok Sword. Icy goofed on Tactician, but got a vid of Bahamut overloading it. Yeah, that's great. I mean, if it can be modded to do what people want it to do, I'm all for that. That would be excellent. Let's see. I know I missed one. Oh, I modded Final Fantasy IX. And oh my god, I no longer can play the game. Yeah, I can understand that. Sometimes, the mods do really change everything. Tactician reduces your damage and increases theirs. In Chapter 4, across difficulty, gives undead monsters over 600 HP and doubles Lucavi HP. All right, well, can an undead monster be killed by a Phoenix down? And if that's the case, then, they could have 1,000,000 HP, but if you got a chemist with an arm, you got Shohei Ohtani, the chemist. Let's see if I missed anything else. Just going through here. Yeah, glad vids can help escape. Research, yeah, will take a lifetime. Yeah, probably. But the vids do help be an escape. That's for certain. Yeah, I'm assuming adding Luso and Balthier will be DLC and maybe some other side things that we didn't get in the PSP or OG. Also, did you ever read the books and tactics? The side stories are really cool. Yes, I did. They are actually a big part of my research. What's really funny is in a lot of the comments in some of my first videos, it's very obvious that people did not read a lot of the source material around Final Fantasy Tactics, and they make a lot of assumptions because they played Final Fantasy 12, like what the order of operations is supposed to be. Final Fantasy Tactics is the OG, and when you are playing through Final Fantasy Tactics, the best thing that you can do is go and read all the side text. You can go to every bar and listen to the rumors. Read the text of when you send your folks on missions to go do things. There's great text in that. There's great information in it. Yeah, there's a treasure trove of information in Final Fantasy Tactics. The thing I want more than anything, just selfishly, is I want an unannotated. I want an original version of the Scriptures of Saint Germanique, and I want an unannotated version of the Jirai papers. And I think that if they would do a limited run and print those, or the Scriptures of Saint Ajora, and do it in universe, I mean, I would be the first one to buy those. I would just love them. They would be on my bookshelf next to my Diablo compendiums and my World of Warcraft compendiums and everything like that. So yeah, my bookshelf is incredibly nerdy. Yeah, Chronicles and State of the World or whatever, add lore, maybe sound novels to an extent. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Side stories, the fact that you need to do the tavern missions and get these side books in the game originally in the OG and PSP, I think they were in Japanese, but the remake made them in English. Yep, yeah, that's 100% right. Best we get is an art book. Germanique and Dry Papers would be interesting. Yeah, I would love it, because I also think it would be interesting to, and I'm wishing someone would do this. Truly. I would love to read what the unvarnished history is, because then you can compare it to what you actually get from the Church of Glabados, and you can actually compare it with what you get in game, and it's oh, this is just wrong, and this is not correct. Maybe Germanique actually does say something to the effect of Ajora is not what Ajora claims to be, and things like that. Yeah, I got all the sound novels before Chapter 4. It doesn't take too long to unlock, given Chapter 4 is bigger than the 3 others combined. I mean, Chapter 4 is, but it isn't. So, if I'll just give you an example. I'm gonna pull up what my original outline was for the different story chapters. So like the nice thing about Final Fantasy Tactics, and this was something that was great about I think JRPGs of the 90s and early 2000s. It truly was the golden age of games. But like Chrono Trigger is a good example. Chrono Trigger, like if you get done with all of the getting Chrono back, you don't even have to get Chrono back. You can literally, once you've completed the main story missions, you can abandon getting Chrono back, and you can just go and beat Lavos, and you can be done. Like, that can happen. But you also have some of the most unbelievable side missions that happen once you have the Epoch or Epic. I don't know how you say that. EPOCH. I've always called it Epoch. I'm going to keep calling it Epoch. People have problems with my pronunciations anyway, so I don't really care. But there's like so much of the story, like every single character in Chrono Trigger, save for Chrono because you're him, is their story is expanded upon in what happens at the end. So if I'm looking at my, I had clipped, and I don't have these anymore, but I had clipped 64 main story missions in Final Fantasy Tactics. And some of these are also like side mission or same things. Yeah, it's Epoch. We're right, and everybody else is wrong, so that's fine. But there are 64 total things that I had clipped, and like 61 is the final boss, or 60 part 60 is the graveyard of airships, 61 is the final boss, 62 is the ending scene, 63 is the credits, and then 64 is the extra scene at the end with Delita and Ovelia. The roof of Riovane's castle and the beginning of chapter 4 are 38 and 39. So 40 through 60 are the main story missions without anything, without any like side missions or anything like that, or without like moving on. But just looking here, and there's 1, 2, 3 Limberries, so it's all like, the 3 Limberry battles. There's the gates inside and then under Limberry Castle. St. Moran's Temple, the Hall of St. Moran's Temple, the Chapel of St. Moran, Underground Book Storage, Moran Death City, Lost Sacred Precincts, Graveyard of Airships. So, like, it's a lot of... Don't get me wrong, that's a lot of battles. That's a ton of battles. But it's not a lot of story. Like the story are the, like... They're the things that are interspersed. They're the vignettes that are interspersed between the battles. You start to get into these situations where, like, it's just battle to battle to battle with some text in between it. Trust me, as somebody who was editing this stuff, like, it was definitely. Yes, Milan is what it is in Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions and in Evil East Chronicles. Morand is what it is in Final Fantasy Tactics. It is a very hard habit for me to break. I do this all the time. When I'm editing my scripts and things like that, I have to go through and I have to you do Control F on words that I know have changed and make sure that they are put in correctly in the in the script, because I say the wrong things literally all the time. So yeah, that's a good call out. Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm hoping that I'm in the middle of writing a couple of scripts right now. I was able to recover most of my scripts after the fire. And like I'm hoping that we can pick up where we left off. We might actually go back to chapter 2 for a little bit, because I realized getting through chapter 3 that, like, a lot of the stories that I wanted to tell in chapter 2 actually were not expanded upon in chapter 3. Like, namely, like Gafgarian was a good example, but his is done. But like Mustadio, although Mustadio you can do a lot with like the Worker 8 stuff. And then like Agrius, we haven't done Agrius yet. I'm working on an Agrius video. We're not going to tell Alma's story until the end of the game, because the plan that I had for Alma's story is, at least right now, this could change. But it's I want to tell Alma's story and Ovelia's story at the same time. I think it makes for a more compelling video, because you can compare and contrast them the entire time. So we might go back to chapter 2 for a little bit. But yeah, chapter 3, we're going to spend some time here. There's a lot of really good themes in chapter 3. We've talked about a bunch of them today already. Namely being WeGraph. The first WeGraph video is it's an unfinished story. And we foreshadow it at the end of the video, and we'll pick it up at the end. Once we have all that. So, I'm hoping to push off here in a little bit. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. I shocked that you guys actually wanted to hang out that long. So, thanks for doing it. I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun for me. This has been fun. I wasn't sure how it was gonna go, but I should know better than to bet against the great community that is starting to be built here. Folks like you, Nana, folks like you, Mr. Variant, folks like more coffee, things like that, and I think been some others who have dropped by. So thank you. Yeah, I mean, other than that, be on the lookout for some other things coming up here in the future. I'm hoping to build out the membership program on YouTube. I have built a Discord channel. I have no patience or tolerance for people who are jerks. I can't stand a lot of that stuff. So I do want to gate the Discord channel behind YouTube memberships, and maybe even potentially Twitch subscriptions at some point. I had a manager once upon a time used to say, like, people who pay attention. So if I just open it up to everybody, I think we could get some folks who are not very nice. So I don't want to bother with that. I don't have time to moderate it. So it'll be a self-selecting sort of thing. So be on the lookout for that. Especially if folks do show that they're interested in that sort of thing and supporting the channel. I have no goals of like making this a this is never going to be my full-time job. I'm not gonna like sell myself out to make a bunch of money on this. So any money that I do make from this channel is invested directly back into the channel. Any support that you guys offer is always appreciated but never expected. So thank you for everything. Thank you to everybody who tuned in today. Thank you for my 3 followers on Twitch. We're starting something, baby. The best way that you guys can support the channel, by the way, it would mean a lot to me, truly. If you can, there's a video that you like, share it with communities, your Discord communities, your, if you're in Final Fantasy Tactics Facebook groups or Reddit groups or things like that, like, I'm not going to do it myself. I just don't believe in shameless self-promotion. I want this to be organic. And so, like, I'm not going to go and do that sort of thing. And, you know, honestly, if we can just keep building a good, solid group of people who, you know, like what I'm doing, and, you know, I like to think that I'm getting better too, and, you know, getting better with, you know, how I'm editing. Editing has been an adventure, let me tell you. You know, learning the different tools and things, and, you know, that's been really fun. But, you know, this is a labor of love. So, you know, if it speaks to you, I do truly appreciate, you know, any support that you guys offer. Otherwise, you know, your support and just hanging out today has been great. And you know, happy to have you guys around. I'm going to read through the last couple messages, make sure I didn't miss anything, and then I'm going to go eat some dinner because I have not done that yet. So, yeah, I think my favorite battle in cutscene is the one where Delita helps Ramza in the Zalmor battle, and the cutscene with Mustadio, Ramza, and Delita is hilarious. Delita be jealous of Ramza's new friend. Yeah. Delita is just generally, he becomes such a little stick in the mud. Let me just put it that way. I'm trying to keep this family friendly. Yeah, Mustadio got this. Evil's Chronicles takes away worse compatibility versus humans, so he doesn't miss aim shot as badly. Though with high HP nerfing Meteor, it's harder to bother with Time Mage. Alright, I'm sorry to hear you say that. Time Mage is one of my favorite classes. That and Geomancer. That's how you know I'm a filthy casual. So I always loved putting Geomancer on guys, because it's like, oh, they can attack from everywhere and they can always hit. It's like, yeah, well, you know, if you're not doing anything, it doesn't really matter. You might as well throw a sponge at people. Community seemed nice here, which Final Fantasy Tactics can have some wars or propaganda. I can see that. You know, it touches on some pretty raw topics. You know, class warfare, you know, political ideology, you know, aristocracy, you know, socio-political, economic, religious undertones and things. It can get a little hairy, I imagine, but so long as people are talking about it respectfully and not being jerks, you know, I think that it is a lovely place, and, you know, and everything like that. Final Fantasy Tactics has unique defense builds. Mime Revive Ladder. Yeah, totally. I would just use 3 tops for errands and make one a mime. Finding dialogue undermines generics. Yeah, we talked about this. Musadio does talk to Alma in Chapter 3 with Zalmor battle. She has quite willpower. Talk to a wall if you want safety. Not her exact words, but funny. Yep, 100%. she's great. Alma rules. She's such a great character. Also, I did love that they added in battle cutscenes with certain characters, but also don't like how they implemented them. Like, how do you get the in-battle cutscenes when you do get them and such? Usually they're stinger vignettes at the end of battles or things like that. And also, War of the Lions just has these weird ones that are just sprinkled throughout. I've actually heard people say that War of the Lions is like the definitive version of the game. But I also know that a lot of people take umbrage with the Shakespearean dialogue. The actor and thespian and theater lover in me loves the Shakespearean dialogue, but I can see how people wouldn't like it. Let's see here. Wish they had in-game characters with jobs like arithmetician. Yep, that's a very easy thing they could add. Why they took it out, that's the thing that, you know, should you know, we should be asking. Is why would you take out content in a game? You should just keep it and then add on top of it. Side quests. Nelveska is the hardest battle, but it is debatable if you want high MA Reese over human, but no javelin. Yeah. So like, for sure, the side quests are very difficult. Like the deep light depths. I always call it the what is it? The underground dungeon or whatever it is in Final Fantasy Tactics on PlayStation. Like that's very hard. That's very challenging. Especially if you're not over power leveled. And the real game, there are 2 versions of Final Fantasy Tactics. There's the version where you get Orlandu and Orlandu wins you the game, and there's the version where you leave Orlandu on your bench. we'll see. I don't think a lot of people like to play the second version, but the power fantasy is great. Yeah, we talked about the sound novel, skipping random encounters. I have heard that's great, although my belief with Final Fantasy Tactics is there is just something about heading to Egros Castle to confront your brothers and the fall of House Beowulf, and you have to fight a bunch of goblins. I think that's great. Talk about sound novels, Ramza wanted posters. That's funny you say that, Mr. Variant. I actually had this idea of one of the channels that I love. Again, I don't want to talk about Warhammer, but like I've never played a game of Warhammer in my life. I've never painted a miniature, but the lore is just amazing. The books are terrific and things like that. But Adeptus Ridiculous is a great podcast that talks about the Warhammer universe in a way that like makes it accessible to people. And one of the things that Adeptus Ridiculous does is for all their Patreon members, they have a different art print that you can either just download directly and then print yourself, or people can go on their shop and buy these posters, and they ship the posters. And I was actually thinking like, how excellent would it be to partner with a really talented artist to do that sort of thing for the channel. And, we'll see. I've got a lot of like not concrete ideas that we could potentially do. But yeah, a Ramza wanted poster, or like talking about Ramza the Heretic and things. I think it'd just be great. I'd put it on my wall. I truly. If you want to re-roll, all right. So I'm gonna go back to the top of this. Glad you mentioned Geomancer, which, yeah, they help any class equipment limitations with Aegis Shield and Runeblade. Yeah, exactly. It's you can use it everywhere. It's great. Handbags for Bard and Dancer are a bad limitation, but yes, the higher HP means they get to perform. Yep. Evilise Chronicles is definitive. I mean, when you cut stuff out, it's not. Like I can understand that like people really like the way it's told, and they really like those sort of things, but you left it out. When you leave stuff out, it's not definitive. Like that's just, yeah. Classic mode uses War of the Lions. Oh, okay, there you go. If you want to roll a whole save for Poaches and Treasure Hunter, that Evilise Chronicle Chemist now has, okay. Instead of autosave, that can be a waste of time, sure. Video games. Hey, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Evilise Chronicles lets you own Tactician with Orlandu if you max Bravery. Yeah, I imagine. Orlandu is phenomenal. He always has been. You like the second version. Sorry, I don't know what the second... Are you saying like between Final Fantasy Tactics, War of the Lions, and Evilise Chronicles? So like War of the Lions would be the second version? Or... yeah, I'm not quite sure. Sure, it's okay to like War of the Lions if you want to play for its exclusives. The Bremont battle was taken out because Beowulf killed him earlier. Yeah. Evilise Chronicles has too many good additions for storyline and gameplay outside of content, and it's tough to want to use a slow summoner. Yeah. Evilise Chronicles is it definitely seems like they quicken things up. Icy is Evilise Chronicles video games. Reaver Scorpion, hello there, General Kenobi. Luso has Poach, which means Behemoth Battle and his Ice Brand are the only things of value. Poaching or recruiting behemoths to use versus Weegraph was fun, I admit, but that's just one thing. To be honest, I enjoy Evilise Chronicles because of the voice acting and also making battles so much better. I can totally understand that. Some of the voice actors that they got to do Evilise Chronicles is peak. Like, truly peak. So, Reaver Scorpion, thank you for the follow. You are follower number 4. We are moving on up, baby. Yeah, it's been very cool to see the the love and support on both sides. As always, no Agrius or Landu and Malia duel allowed. That's what I like to play. Yeah, I love it. Challenge modes. That's great. You can make the game as easy or as complicated as you like. It's very much like Elden Ring in that way. If you want to use spirit ashes and summons and magic, you can beat a Souls-like game with Elden Ring. It's great. Or if you want to, have no vigor and do stance dancing and things like that, you can do that too. So that is the way that you are choosing to play. There is no right or wrong way to play the game. Just play the game. That's going to be the most important part. Don't pay full price. At $30, it's way easier to go lenient. Deluxe edition sucks as you get more JP anyway, at least 20 without JP boost, and Ring of Aptitude won't stack. Malia Duel got nerfed for Unyielding Blade. Javelin 2 Dancer is busted for her. Yeah, I mean, that's always... I can remember reading something on GameFAQs once upon a time talking about that. More coffee. My latest playthrough was just Ramza and the generics I got at the beginning. I really love that. That is the way that I played through War of the Lions. I think it's a better story, personally. But if we do play Evil East Chronicles on here, I'm going to have to use only special characters. Because let's be real, I'm going to have to follow a guide to make sure I get all of the special interactions for the channel. Have you tried Hoshigami? I don't believe that I have. Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't think that I have. Yeah, I mean, other than that, guys, if, you guys can always reach me, here, or you can, reach out to me, on, I respond to every comment, or at least I try to on YouTube. For the folks on Twitch who found this organically, youtube.com/EvilEastInsider. My name is Evil East Insider, this little guy that you see in the bottom right-hand corner. I am lovingly referring to as the Chronicle, or the Chronicler, rather. Maybe he can be our little mascot. I don't know. I kind of like him. I think he's great. I'm just over the moon with how he turned out. But if you want to check me out on YouTube, I do long-form, in-depth lore breakdowns for Final Fantasy Tactics in the world of Evil East. You will find content on there that is not only for Final Fantasy Tactics, but also talking about Vagrant Story and Final Fantasy XII, as well as some of the Advance titles as well, with the understanding that Advance is the only actual confirmed through line through the series. Everything else is kind of speculation, but there's a lot of smoke around that fire too. So there's that. Yeah, but if you're if you're seeing me on YouTube for the first time, I'm also on Twitch. That's where we're going to be doing some of these live chats as well. If you prefer Twitch, twitch.tv/EvilEastInsider. If like I said, if you guys do enjoy the content, I do appreciate anybody who is liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, doing all those sort of things. It's the best support you can give me, truly. Other than that, I really can't say thank you enough to everybody who showed up today, everybody who stuck it out for the past hour and 35 minutes, and the folks who I can always count on, it seems, to be there in my comment sections on my videos. I really do value and appreciate every single one of you. I do truly have love in my heart for the community. You guys were so helpful to me through all of the craziness that happened, starting in December with my family, and then again with the fire, and it does truly warm my heart. So thank you, truly, from the bottom of my heart. Hoping to have another video out sometime in the next week or so. It'll be another character deep dive. Probably about Wheatgraph in Chapter 2. just kind of as a partner piece for the Ramza Chapter 3 video that we just did. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And we will